TIL. Since 2015, Sesame Street has been funded by HBO due to PBS funding issues. So it's brought to us by the letters H, B, and O. And people got pissed because they thought big corporations were taking Sesame Street into a paid-only subscription. Which is partly true, they just release the episodes after they've already played on HBO. Not sure how long they're on HBO before going to cable though. This title is erroneous. Sesame Workshop is a separate organization from PBS. Sesame Workshop needed money, so they went to HBO because HBO would pay more, but PBS at least gets all episodes later. Yes, PBS has less money than HBO, but HBO shelled out more because they wanted to bolster their children's programming. The article you posted says that PBS is only responsible for 10% of the Sesame Street's budget. The rest comes from merchandise and DVD sales. PBS, which will air the new episodes 9 months after they first run on HBO, reportedly pays a license fee that covers about 10% of the show's annual $40 million production cost. Meanwhile, DVD sales, once responsible for much of its revenue, drop each year with the growth of video streaming services. Sesame Workshop has a significant merchandising asset in its intellectual property, which it has licensed to companies including Hasbro, Fisher-Price, and Betty Crocker. The nonprofit would bring in revenue from hit toys like Tickle Me Elmo and Talking Big Bird, but it's still not enough. Licensing revenue has dipped to roughly the same level as the show's production cost, from $46 million in 2013 to $41 million in 2014. According to the financial statements, kids' habits are shifting. They've moved on to interactive platforms, says Gary Nell, Sesame Workshop's former CEO, who left in 2011. Traditional toys don't really carry the day. So while PBS not willing/able to pay a higher license fee probably contributed to Sesame Street seeming an alliance with HBO, it seems like it wasn't the sole reason. This deal is something of a violation of Sesame Street's founding principles, but it's understandable. When it began in 1969, Sesame Street was revolutionary for many reasons, like its commitment to teaching preschool children basic concepts of language and math. Its dedication to being available, for free, to as many American children as possible was also notable. At the time, NET, now known as PBS, was struggling to gain a foothold nationwide. The popularity of Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood would help establish the network as a national presence. HBO, of course, is not available for free. It's the very definition of a luxury good. And in that sense, this deal is just a little bit of a violation of Sesame Street's founding principles. It's hard to blame SW for this. And the company still found a way to make episodes available on PBS. But these developments show just how razor-thin the margin is for everybody in television right now, and just how little money niche broadcasters like PBS have when competing with the biggest fish in the pond. Sadly, when we think about Sesame Street, we almost never think of its financial viability. Also, worth noting that this is https://cdn1-thr-com. CDN. AMP project. org/2/w1200/s/cdn1. thr. com/site/default/files/2019/02/ Sesame Street money embed_2019. JPG, how Sesame Street makes its money. 39% from distribution fees and royalties. 31% from philanthropic donations. 26% from product licensing. 4% from government grants, less than $5 million a year, which is barely enough to cover Sesame Workshop's office rent. I remember all the funding drives they had on television when I was a kid. I asked my mom to donate, but she seemed to think it was fake. I don't know how much longer PBS can survive. They don't really have an online platform that competes in any way with the big boys. Thing is, most kids don't have TVs anymore, or in the least, don't have cable. My brother never got cable his entire life, and when he had a kid, The kid lived off of Netflix Kids. They went to an NHL hockey game and my brother tells my nephew the cameras are on us, wave so Poppy can see you. The kid didn't understand that millions of people watch NHL games on TV. How can Poppy see us? Not PBS funding issues. Sesame Street in its pre-2015 form was paid for mostly by tape, DVD, and merchandise sales. YouTube destroyed most of that revenue stream. The choice was to shrink Sesame Street down in scope to something closer to what it was in the 80s or find new revenue. Sadly, as part of the process, the cut shows from an hour to 30 minutes. I learned to read and speak because of PBS. I want to thank all the philanthropists and viewers for supporting this amazing network. Thank you, HBO. I am forever grateful. I'm concerned about the departure of Richard Plepler from HBO last year. While his tenure as chairman and CEO only began in 2007, he was part of a management tradition that stretched back to the 90s. That management tradition at HBO was responsible for pioneering the idea that bundled cable television content providers could produce their own shows and not just serve as a third-run movie outlet, produced groundbreaking content like The Sopranos, The Wire, and Game of Thrones, and saved Sesame Street. It is clear that Warner Bros. Wants HBO to be the centerpiece of a streaming platform play that will allow them to retain their underdog competitor status with Disney, and to knock off Netflix, possible, and or Amazon, probably not possible. It is not clear if the things that made HBO great will survive that repositioning effort. When the old boss steps down, and a guy who was never part of that earlier tradition takes over, it makes me worry. So AT&T funded. PA did a great comic on this at the time. https://www. Penny Arcade. com/comic/2015/08/14. This is what happens when you let the count do your show budget. $1. $2. That will do. This would explain why there was a Game of Thrones skit with Grover. I thought that was kinda weird for a kids show. Crazy how we have money for bombs and predator drones and corporate bailouts and presidential golf outings if we're so strapped for cash. Say what you will, but the quality of Sesame Street episodes increased dramatically after the acquisition by HBO. Just watching by season you can see a shift in the sketches, guest appearances, and music. With daycares closed and me working from home, I've been grateful there's still quality educational programming available. The new songs are trash. The 2010 to 2015 era is much better. Obviously losing Big Bird's original VA is bad, but Murray also quit, plus no Flying Fairy School, Bird, and Ernie Adventures, etc. And Elmo's world is totally different. Or we could actually fund public television. I think the US could do with having 8 less cruise missiles. We need Mr. Rogers. I think this is why we're getting other Sesame Street content like parodies of things like Game of Thrones and other pop culture phenomena. They have more money to do the things they want to do, not just the basic minimum they can afford. As a young kid, I scraped whatever tiny funds I could find, in order to pledge to those drives they were doing. I got a bunch of stuff that little me didn't know what to do with. I just wanted Sesame Street to keep going. Huge downside is there is no longer syndication on PBS or other local/public access TV because of the licensing agreements. Both new and old content becomes unavailable for some of the less fortunate youth who desperately need its messages. The quality is HBO level. My kids love Sesame Street as much as I did when I was a kid. That does explain how John Oliver got Elmo and a few others to appear for the prison episode. Trump's administration has been trying to zero out funding for PBS for some time as well. Probably because Sesame Street roasted him back in the day. https://youtube.b/yqytppu0gvc. Sesame Street isn't even Sesame Street anymore, for lack of a better title. It's the Elmo Show nowadays, and it's hot garbage compared to their early years. There are plenty of local, independently produced children's television programs out there that may not have huge budgets, but more than make up for it in terms of quality and content. 100% independently produced, 100% volunteer-driven children's television is not only possible, it's happening now. https://www.youtube.com/watch v=2bds5zeyyyjw https://youtube.b/vlz Saint xmwhy t=152